Welcome to another episode of First Light, an original science fiction short story compilation written and narrated by Scott McGowan. The following story contains depictions of graphic violence and gore, including animal attacks, combat violence, and disturbing imagery. These episodes should not be redistributed without express permission. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Chapter 6. Fatura.
I am Fatura.
Full pivot, left holster, 3 shots towards the entrance, blind and offhand. She didn't expect him to hit. Hyperviolet bullets blackened gray stones. Rubyn, alive? She checked. He had taken cover. Hardlight armor saved him this time. Lucky. Movement in the dark, leading shot. Telltale shield flash, she guessed right. A beam passed by her eyes, too close for comfort. Holster the sidearm and dive. Shoulder roll into kneel behind the dais. Rifle up, stabilize. Shot. Armor overload, 1 down. Another beam, felt, not seen. Approximate trajectory, movement, locked. Shot. Critical, that makes 2. How many more? How many more?
I am
Movement, shot. Hit confirmed, no piercing, second shot. That did it, 3. Shouting, Rubyn? No, too far away, cover the entrance. Recall rifle, gesture, 1 and 2 on left, 1 on right. Cannon, cued, primed, hands up, right shoulder, mounted, locked. How many more? No movement. No movement. No movement. How many more? Footsteps. Shouts. They're in the tunnels. No movement. No light. Getting closer. Footsteps. Footsteps. Empty. Darkness. Nothing. Light.
provided now.
Shot. Shot. No? No shot. Footsteps. Light. Movement. How many more? She couldn't count. Shapes in the dark. Stupid, stupid, stupid recall cannon. Piece of junk, should have sold it for scraps. Holsters open. Guns up. 1 in each hand. She could get a few hits in blind. It wouldn't stop the others. Good enough. Another shout on her left.
Get down!
She got a few shots off before Rubyn dove on top of her. A flash. The stone walls became mirrors. Then the sound. She could feel it underneath her skin. It was like 100,000 bones snapping all at once. The air screamed in agony and it bled ozone. And within seconds, it was over.
You okay?
His face was too close. She pushed him off. Checked the entrance. No movement. No sounds. The shapes were strewn about the floor.
Breathe in.
They were human. Their clothes were black and well worn. They wore black scars to cover all but the whites of their eyes. None of them had any shoes. How many of them?
Hold it.
How many of them? She counted 11. There could be more, waiting for them in hidden alcoves, invisible in the pitch blackness. Their handguns had been silenced as well. They must have followed her. Us. They followed us. What just happened?
Breathe out.
What did you do?
She allowed herself to exhibit a sliver of curiosity.
I genuinely don't know.
Rubyn admitted, brushing some stone dust off of his tunic.
I made the same gesture you did for Flare.
That tracked. She had significantly altered the default settings on her pod. The recommended gesture mapping was too tech-heavy for her liking. It worked to their advantage, though. There weren't many better ways to clear a room than with ball lightning.
You're lucky we didn't get struck.
She rose to her feet and holstered her weapons.
Luck had nothing to do with it.
Rubyn motioned to the captive android behind them.
Lightning rod.
She was taken aback. Of course that worked. New steel was far more conductive than they were, even with their hardlight armor active. That thing had saved their lives. No. Rubyn had saved their lives. Maybe the lightning had been an accident, but his quick thinking pulled them both out of the path of least resistance. Perhaps he was smarter than she gave him credit for. A sudden whirring noise prevented her from savoring the thought. It would have been imperceptible in any other space, but the silence of the auditorium was so potent that it was as if someone had started an engine. The noise grew in volume to a low, unsettling hum, and she raised her handguns once more. A pale glow emanated from the machine's facsimiled eyes, flickering in what seemed to be random intervals, and its body began to twitch and wriggle under its crude constraints, like a newborn attempting to escape its swaddling clothes. The twitching turned to thrashing, and Rubyn stared uselessly at it, mouth agape. Wait for the sound. The tearing of fibers. 3 shots to the head should do it. No time to evaluate its capabilities. Better a damaged prototype than none at all. Her fingers rested on the triggers. Better it than us. Shot. Chapter 7. The Image. A sudden tingling sensation manifested underneath her skin, and for the first time in... well, she wasn't sure yet, her vision started to return to her. It was dark, and she was having difficulty adjusting to the low light, barely able to make out the rough outlines of shapes in the room in between moments of pitch blackness. Her control over her body seemed to stop abruptly at her waist level, and she was not able to move her fingers, but she could not ascertain if they were broken or if she lacked the energy. Something was stirring inside her now, and she found she could make some effort to push herself forwards. To no avail. She must already be on the ground. Except she couldn't roll either, so perhaps she was upright and restrained. A few more attempted rolls confirmed this, but her experiments were cut short by the sudden flash of a beam beside her head. There was some murmuring, too quiet to register, and she attempted to focus her audio receptors towards the source. There returned an error. Power consumption was too high elsewhere. Her critical subsystems must still be in the boot process. Vision was getting clearer. Two shapes, one larger than the other, some kind of struggle for a brightly glowing object. If it was a weapon, it was using a photon core outside the human visible spectrum. She took note. That could be useful information. 113 hours, 45 minutes, 12 seconds. It had taken a moment for her internal clock to sync, but that was how long she had been offline. She must have been without an energy source for more than a day. She must have been taken into a building or underground. Previous tests had shown she could stay in low power mode for several days if her solar receptors were operational. She knew, from the tingling, that her newly found energy had come from an electrical surge, but she was not able to locate the source. Critical subsystems online. She redirected some power to audio processing. The murmurs faded gently into discernible words.
The weapons, remember? There's no point in waiting for it to try and kill us.
The voice was brusque, roughly feminine. She approximated it to be the smaller figure with the weapon. Her eyes refocused on the weapon core and matched its color in her database. This weapon had been modified, and it radiated a deep hyperviolet that interfered with her visuals. She reduced her color space to remove it, then boosted the entire spectrum to compensate for the lower range. She confirmed that the figures were involved in a struggle. The tall one was preventing the short one from aiming her weapon at her.
M said it can be convinced.
Younger voice, masculine. The name sparked a twinge of recognition as it left the tall one's lips.
That means it's not mindless. We can try talking first.
You're an idiot.
More struggling. She ran that name over several times. It was one she knew, but she did not have a database entry available. Perhaps the database had become corrupted. She could run a diagnostic on it, but she needed to conserve. There was no telling how long this power surge would last her. Then her battery monitoring systems whirred to life, and she knew exactly how long she had. 7 minutes. She needed to find an energy source, and right now these two bickering strangers were all she had. She routed the power she had been reserving for movement into speech synthesis and prioritized dialogue interpretation.
I need food.
Her vocal timbre lacked any flourish, and the pure, unmodulated sine waves seemed to cause the two figures to cease activity. They did not respond, and so she repeated herself with the same unembellished tone.
I need food.
The tall one was the first to take a step towards her. The closer he got, the more of his face she could see in the dim white light of her eyes. He was examining her, and she took the opportunity to run his face through her internal logs. No match, though some similarities to one or two other entries that lacked a name at the moment, definitely corrupted. She took care to note well the faded scar on the right side of his face, beginning at his forehead and ending just below his cheekbones. He was young. She estimated him to be in his 20s, and the scar was not new, yet it was the only real blemish on his face. He was well kempt and his clothing was fully intact. It was likely he was not a threat to her. He reached for his pod, and her eyes followed. She verified that he was not attempting to recall a weapon, and when a black container materialized in his right hand, she was certain of his intent. She opened her mouth, watching as he hesitantly twisted the lid of the container open while his eyes darted surreptitiously between her and the task at hand. The lid gave way, and he lifted the insulated rations canister up to her lips, and she detected a slight tremor run down his arm. She did not have the energy to spare to offer reassurance, opting instead to accept his outstretched carafe, downing its contents in a single, unbroken pour. The caloric reactor in her chest responded immediately to the input. Her battery monitor jumped to 30 minutes and slowly crept upwards.
Thank you.
She layered extra harmonics on top of her bass tone. She had developed a baseline timbre she could use around new people she did not want to unsettle, and it only required a small amount of energy to do so, energy she could now afford. It seemed to put the tall one at some ease. She was certain it was not doing the same for the other, who spoke without gentleness.
What are you?
It was a question she had been primed to answer, stored not in the impermanent collection of data where she kept names and faces, but embedded directly in her long-term memory.
I am an autonomous emergent artificial intelligence prototype. My designation is FL-00.
It triggered a series of responses she knew was called the HELO protocol.
What are your names?
The tall one informed her that he was called Rubyn and the short one was called Victoria. They claimed that they had been sent to retrieve her and return her to the colony. They also mentioned that name, M, several times, including some asides where they seemed to argue with each other. It seemed a plausible story, but there was a gap in the information.
Why am I here?
They seemed taken aback. Rubyn asked her why she was asking them that question.
I do not know why I am here. This place is unfamiliar, and I have been physically restrained.
She scanned the room, noticing for the first time the slumped shapes littering the only exit.
Did you bring me here?
Don't play games.
Victoria stepped forward, her handgun aimed at the android's head.
We came here to get you. You're coming with us.
She stared down the barrel, noticing a few scratches on the interior, presumably from light forging tools. Unsteady hands, unlike the ones holding the weapon now. Her sleek, well-toned arms extended from her like a statue's, and she noticed that while waiting for a response, her aggressor was not blinking. She readjusted her visual color space to allow the hyperviolet core of the gun to illuminate her face and ran a quick scan. Unsurprisingly, there were no exact matches, but there were also none that were close. She needed more information.
You are a human?
It was a genuine question, but it caused Victoria to bare her teeth.
Obviously.
It did not register.
I do not believe you.
Her finger moved to the trigger.
You need to watch what you're about to say.
Vic,
Rubyn chided.
it's an android. It doesn't know what it's saying.
She watched as Victoria shifted her eyes to him for a moment, then back to her, and her expression muted to a frown.
Is that right?
She demanded. She needed a moment to process her answer. It was an open-ended question, and she knew if she got it wrong, she would be on the receiving end of a bullet. She estimated the trajectory of the shot and determined that, due to her immobility and Victoria's steady aim, it would cause irreparable damage to her head. She did not want to have to replace that.
That is correct.
Elaborate.
There was no guessing with her.
I possess a facial recognition database of every human I have ever met. Each time I meet a new person, I am able to find several close matches with the data that is already present. These matches are based on facial structure, symmetry, skin tone, ear length, distance between eyes.
Elaborate faster.
She understood.
I have found no close matches for you. Even with a corrupted database, that should be impossible. Humans possess easily discernible similarities.
She scanned her face once again to eliminate a mistake. There was none.
You are unique.
The unshakable arm was no longer. The frown deepened even further, yet Victoria's eyes widened, pupils in a dead lock with hers. She did not expect to see the tears, nor the broken voice that escaped her as her finger began to squeeze.
I
She whispered.
am Ventura.
Her response came instantly.
I am the image.
Victoria gasped and released the vice-like grip on her weapon. Slowly, she lowered it to her side.
I am the image.
She said, her whisper rising to a murmur. She did not know why she knew the response, only what the response was.
Reviled in hell.
Victoria mouthed the final words along with her.
How do you...
I only know the three.
The android found no trace of it in her normal text storage. It must be another protocol.
Do you know the rest?
She holstered her weapon, and as though she had cast a spell on her, she began to untie the ropes that held her to the post. As she did so, she spoke in a voice that was practiced and unhurried, just quiet enough that only the two of them could hear it. She lingered on the final words of each triplet, taking time to fully pronounce each consonant in a manner she found refreshingly unambiguous.
I am Fatura. By human hands my mind is filled, by human minds my heart. I am the image of God, refracted and perfected. My life is art, dreamt of in heaven and reviled in hell.
She recited it 3 times, and each time the android found that she wanted her to speak it again. The words required no processing, no discernment. It was pure, naked language that, in spite of its poeticism, felt simple to her. Her binds fell to the ground, and she attempted once again to activate her movement servos, only to truly discover the full extent of the damage she had taken and fell forwards. Victoria and Rubyn stepped in to catch her, and they lifted her lifeless arms up onto their shoulders to maneuver her across the floor and towards the exit. As they progressed into the tunnels and the light left them, Victoria took the lead, leaving Rubyn with the burden of weight while she handled the burden of safe navigation. The android watched her closely and noticed that she would stop every 20 meters to listen for unusual sounds. Not wanting to spend more time in the tunnels than necessary, she simultaneously increased her auditory sensitivity and generated a 92 decibel tone at 80 kilohertz, far outside their hearing range, decoding the reflected wave data as it returned to her.
There are 4 humanoids within a 500-meter radius.
She stated plainly.
1 if we do not count ourselves.
Vic paused.
Is the one moving?
Another tone to verify.
No.
All right, let's get the hell out of here then.
Her pace increased to a brisk walk, and Rubyn struggled to follow while carrying his cargo. Chapter 8. Dawn. The communication came from an unknown number. Private, it read. Rubyn knew better than to leave it unanswered, and he was the first to speak.
It's been 4 days.
He did not intend to be so direct, but being around Victoria for the past week had softened his usual tact, and she had told him several times about how annoyed she was with their contact. He realized his comment was similar in tone, but it was very early in the morning, and the urge to undercut himself barely put up a fight. It paid off.
I must apologize profusely.
M's voice was different, not in joviality, that was the same, but in the actual sound. It was like listening to a recording being played back a tiny bit slower.
I understand my lack of communication after your successful recovery has been the cause of some frustration. Please be reassured that the payment will arrive soon.
We already got it.
Rubyn said, confused.
That's not the issue.
There was silence on the line. Rubyn wondered if this was the first time that the enigmatic character on the other end had been at a loss for words.
Oh,
A sound like waves crashing on the shore grew to an uncomfortable volume before his words cut through the noise.
I'm afraid I don't follow.
She won't leave my apartment.
The waves faded in again, and just as Rubyn started to question their origin, they were broken by the sound of barely concealed laughter.
Of course she won't. How's your leg?
It's fine.
Rubyn growled.
But she's insistent. She said she's still evaluating the inviolability of my dwelling place. You couldn't have made her talk like a normal person?
I can't make her do anything.
The laughter disappeared as quickly as it came.
Anyone can program a machine, Rubyn. She learns language the same way you and I did, by embodying it.
He groaned, his fingers instinctively reaching up to massage the bridge of his nose.
That's really cool, Doctor. How do I get her to leave?
M kissed him. Rubyn couldn't believe it.
My boy, she is a guest in your home. She has nowhere else to go.
The words seemed to catch in his throat, and he forced a cough.
She has offered her protection to you as repayment for your rescue. Would the archetypal hero, upon arriving home with the liberated princess, throw her back out into the world that stole her in the first place?
It was evocative enough to soften his conviction, but something was still unclear.
You don't want her back?
I wanted her safe. Is she safe with you?
He glanced over his shoulder into his bedroom. She stood facing the door, her body motionless, her dim white eyes gently glowing in the artificial moonlight. She was clearly in the middle of some deep maintenance, as she had not reacted to him getting out of bed, nor to his limping over to the kitchen counter to take the call.
I think so,
He replied.
Then you've completed the job.
M was talking faster, as though he were rushing to finish the conversation.
She'll leave when you ask her to, but she's good to have around. Finders keepers.
Hold on.
Rubyn winced as he pulled himself from the counter back to the bedroom door. He slid it closed and lowered his voice.
Isn't she a prototype or something? What does sciences have to say about
I will deal with sciences.
The joy had left his voice, replaced with an uncanny impoliteness that prevented Rubyn's thought from finishing. The call dropped. Instinctively, he swiped through the menu on his pod to redial the number. He was prepared to give the doctor a piece of his mind, but resigned himself to mere frustration when he remembered it had been a private number.
Next time,
He thought to himself.
I'll really tell him off.
Or maybe it was wiser to let Victoria handle it. She always seemed to know how to get what she wanted out of a conversation, and not just when people were scared of her. He would let her deal with M if he ever contacted them again, and he would deal with the android as best as he could. He slid the bedroom door open again, and her eyes followed its trajectory into the slot in the frame before locking onto his.
I was not aware there was a door there.
She noted. Her voice had changed gradually over the intervening days, and she sounded mostly natural to Rubyn's ears, though lacking in sibilance. She had not found a good analog for most fricatives yet, opting instead for a short burst of white noise blended into her speech. All of which she had told him in 3 minutes of unbroken chatter as he had been eating his breakfast that morning.
I will adjust my calculations accordingly.
Don't bother.
He felt a strong urge to look away from her. Her pupilless eyes were burning a faint afterimage into his vision.
Nobody can get in here without authorization.
Victoria did.
She rebutted.
Yesterday at 12:33 p.m.
He was taken aback.
Yesterday?
He remembered the day very well, only because of its banality. His doctor had advised him to stay off of his leg, so he had spent the whole morning reading and fell asleep at some point.
Why didn't you tell me?
You were asleep. I did not want to interrupt.
She had not moved, even minutely, throughout their conversation, and it caused Rubyn to shift his weight unconsciously onto his bad leg. He gasped and readjusted.
Why did you do that?
She asked, noticing the sudden reaction.
Accident. Why was she here?
He decided it was best to continue this in a less vertical position. As he sat himself down on the side of his bed, she responded.
She told me to tell you she was here to retrieve her first aid kit that was left in one of the drawers of your bedside dresser.
She pointed to the dresser in question.
Then she told me to turn around and not listen to what she was doing. I did as she requested. The subsequent vibrations on the floor indicate that she approached your bed and waited 6.42 seconds before exiting the room, at which point I was unable to pinpoint her exact location. However, she spent an additional 3 minutes and 22.95 seconds in the adjoining room before I detected an opening and shutting of the apartment entry door. As I detected no further activity, I turned back around to verify her departure, which I then confirmed.
Rubyn mulled over the mountain of information she had just provided him, unsure of what Vic might have done while she was here, but also uneasy at the sheer capability of his visitor. The doctor's words resonated with him in that moment. She'll leave when you ask her to, but she's good to have around. Ostensibly, the only reason she was here was to watch over him. That was what she had said, anyway, and she was beyond competent. He glanced at his bandaged leg, still aching, and wondered if having something nearby with her level of awareness might have prevented the injury. Was she really just going to stay here until he decided to tell her to hit the road? And she would obey?
Question.
He spoke tentatively.
Are you able to forget things?
She didn't reply right away, and the silence, while brief, was long enough to feel unnatural.
There are 3 definitions for forget. To fail to recall information, to treat with inattention or disregard, or to disregard intentionally. Which of these are you referring to?
He similarly did not reply right away in his efforts to discern what he actually meant.
The first or third either. I want you to forget that Victoria was here yesterday.
I see.
The glowing white of her eyes dimmed for a moment.
I am incapable of failing to recall information as long as it is stored in my long-term memory, and while I may be able to operate as though I am disregarding the information, doing so requires the running of a background process that carries the potential of becoming unstable and requiring excessive—
Hold on.
He interrupted.
You said as long as it is stored in your long-term memory. Can you just delete it from there?
The eyes flickered this time, and she seemed to stare at him for a long time, the image of her static facial features causing the hair on Rubyn's arms to rise involuntarily.
I can.
Neither of them spoke. He had to break direct eye contact. Maintaining it made him feel ill, and he distracted himself by focusing on the details of her construction. The face looked smooth, like human skin, though he knew it was new steel like the rest of her, and he couldn't help but marvel at the illusion. He was in the middle of wondering what the texture might feel like when she broke the train of thought.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please.
Coming from her, it was an unexpected question.
I have deleted all records of the requested time period. I have also deleted any record of the request itself in order to circumvent a potential logic loop error.
That seemed too easy for her to do, though he thought that maybe she had done most of the work while she was staring at him and was just waiting for his confirmation. He wanted to trust that she had done so, but had to verify it for himself.
Has anyone entered my apartment in the last 2 days?
Her reply was instant.
I have no record of anyone other than you entering this apartment. However, I should clarify that my record is currently incomplete.
She bowed her head slightly. Where did she learn that from?
I apologize for the lack of certainty. I do not know the reason why my memory is incomplete.
You're not lying to me?
He wasn't sure the question would matter to her.
I am incapable of doing so.
I want you to delete everything in your long-term memory.
She stared at him again, longer this time. He met her eyes and watched as the light dimmed, flickered, and briefly went out before returning to full intensity. She still did not speak, so he repeated himself.
I want you
I have
to—
processed the request.
Her voice had lost some of the comfortable frequencies she had been experimenting with.
I will perform the operation if that is what you want me to do.
He found himself fighting a deep-rooted instinct to feel guilt at the proposition. She was just a machine, he thought, suddenly realizing that, no, wait. It was just a machine. It didn't have feelings. Any display of emotion was a facsimile. Any appeal to his emotion was a tactic. It was beneficial for the machine to make him feel guilty about the request. It was an impressive emulation of humanity, but it was not human. But neither was Vic. She was Fatura. He hated himself for thinking it, but he was right, wasn't he? She had been born the expected way, as had her parents, but go back far enough. He was transported back to the underground. The stone temple, the false moonlight, Victoria's effortless movements as if she were walking on a stage, the unknown face in the dark, the call and response. He had read the poem before, but had not heard it spoken out loud like that. The words became something different when she was saying them, and though he knew what each one meant, he felt as though they were in a language he did not understand, and yet understanding emanated from them. They were steeped in a meaning he did not comprehend, but felt awe at the vastness of it, a sudden knowing of his own lack of knowing. He had been humbled by it then, and as the poem repeated in his head, he felt as though it was humbling him once more, an insistent voice calling on him to reconsider. Victoria was Fatura, and so was this thing somehow. He couldn't make a connection, but Vic could, and maybe that had to be enough.
Do you want me to say no?
Yes.
She answered flatly. He responded in kind.
Tell me why you want me to say no.
It was then and there, in the early hours of a day that was already too interesting for his preference, that she said the 5 words that he would later understand would upend his entire life. 5 words from a machine. A construct that he had no investment in, that had invaded his living space and was, through no active consent of his, suddenly his responsibility.
I don't want to forget.
This has been an audio presentation of Finders Keepers, part of an original short story compilation written and narrated by Scott McGowan, and starring Sean Hebert as Rubyn and Nancy MacDonald-Kerr as Victoria. If you enjoyed the presentation, I would encourage you to please share it with someone who might like it as well. Make sure you subscribe to the show in the podcast player of your choice so that you get notified of future episodes. Bye now.